Welcome back to my channel Official History of Coins and 3 Coins History and Story USA. Today we're taking a closer look at a small old coin that most people would probably ignore without thinking twice. Let's get started. The 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a little 1-cent coin that often shows up looking dirty, scratched, faded, and worn down after decades of use. At first glance it can look like nothing more than old pocket change sitting in the bottom of a drawer or hidden inside an old family jar. But that's exactly why collectors keep paying attention to coins like this, because sometimes the most ordinary-looking penny can quietly carry real value. And believe it or not, certain 1939 wheat pennies have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their condition and rare details. The 1939 wheat penny was produced during a very important time in American history, right before the United States entered World War II. Back then, pennies were still heavily used in everyday life, and millions of these coins passed through people's hands in stores, diners, train stations, and small-town businesses across America. The coin features President Abraham Lincoln on the front with the word Liberty beside him and the date 1939 underneath. On the back are the famous wheat stalks that gave this series its nickname, the Wheat Penny. That classic design remained popular for decades and became one of the most recognizable coins in American history. Even though millions were made, collectors today still search for certain 1939 pennies because some examples are far more valuable than others. One reason this coin attracts so much attention is because condition matters more than most people realize. A heavily worn penny may still hold value, but when collectors find one with stronger details, cleaner surfaces, or rare mint characteristics, prices can rise quickly. Some people discover these coins in old jars and think they're worthless because they look dark, damaged, or stained from years of circulation. But experienced collectors know that even ugly coins can still be valuable. In fact, a naturally aged coin is often preferred over one that has been polished or cleaned. That old brown color, those tiny scratches, and even uneven wear can all be signs that the coin has lived through decades of American history untouched. If you ever come across a 1939 wheat penny, the first thing to check is the date and the mint mark. Right below the year you may see a tiny letter. No letter means it was minted in Philadelphia. A D stands for Denver, and an S means San Francisco. Collectors pay close attention to these marks because some versions are harder to find in higher grades. The San Francisco coins especially tend to attract stronger interest when the details are sharp and well preserved. You'll also want to examine Lincoln's face, the lettering, and the wheat lines on the reverse side. The more visible those details remain, the higher the potential value can become. Even a coin that looks rough can still surprise you if important features are still visible underneath the wear. Another thing collectors look for is the coin's color and overall surface quality. Some 1939 wheat pennies still show traces of their original red copper shine, and those pieces can become extremely desirable. A cleaner example with strong color and fewer marks might reach prices around $850 or even $1,300 in today's collector market. Coins with exceptional detail and eye appeal have sold for around $2,100, especially when professionally graded. And when you move into rare high-grade examples with strong luster and almost no circulation wear, the numbers can climb even higher. Some outstanding 1939 wheat pennies have reached values near $3,400, while rare premium condition examples can sometimes push past $4,700 or more at major auctions. One mistake many people make after finding an old penny is trying to clean it. That can actually destroy a large portion of the coin's collector value almost instantly. Even gentle polishing can leave tiny scratches that experts notice immediately. A cleaned coin may look brighter to the average person, but serious collectors usually prefer original surfaces instead. So if you ever find a 1939 wheat penny that looks old, dark, or dirty, the best thing you can do is leave it exactly as it is. Place it carefully in a small holder or envelope and avoid rubbing the surface. Sometimes the coins that appear the worst are actually the ones collectors become most interested in because they still carry authentic, untouched history. What makes this penny fascinating is that it represents a completely different era of America. Imagine how many people may have carried this exact coin during the late 1930s and early 1940s. It could have passed through grocery stores during the Great Depression, sat inside military pockets during wartime, or remained forgotten in an attic for generations. That emotional connection adds to the excitement collectors feel when they discover one. It's not just about the money, even though the money can be surprisingly good. It's about owning a real piece of history that survived for more than 80 years. And because collectors continue searching for high-quality examples, the 1939 wheat penny continues to hold real value in the coin market today. So the next time you see an old penny that looks worn out, scratched, faded, and easy to ignore, take a closer look before tossing it aside. A 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny may appear ordinary, but certain examples can still sell for serious money depending on their condition, mint mark, and originality. Values like $850, $1,300, $2,100, $3,400, and even $4,700 or more are part of what keeps collectors searching through old coin jars every single day. Remember not to clean the coin, check the details carefully, and keep an eye out for strong lettering and sharp wheat lines. Sometimes the smallest and ugliest looking coins end up being the ones with the most surprising value. Next coin, the 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny, is one of those coins that people regularly ignore because of how rough it usually looks today. Most examples are dark brown, heavily worn, scratched across the surface, and sometimes so dull that the design barely stands out anymore. The edges may appear smooth from decades of circulation, while Lincoln's portrait often looks faded and flat. Because of that tired appearance, many people assume the coin has no real value and treat it like ordinary pocket change from the past. But collectors tend to look at these old wheat pennies differently. They understand that even a damaged-looking 1942 penny can still carry surprising collector demand, especially when important details remain visible and untouched. One reason this coin is so commonly overlooked is because millions were produced during the early 1940s, which makes people think they're automatically common and worthless. In reality, surviving condition plays a huge role in value. Most 1942 wheat pennies spent years moving through stores, banks, vending machines, and cash registers during a difficult period in American history. That heavy circulation destroyed many high-quality examples over time. So while worn pieces are still easy to find, cleaner and sharper examples have become much harder for collectors to locate. This difference between ordinary circulation wear and collectible condition is exactly what causes some 1942 pennies to reach unexpectedly high prices today. The coin itself represents a very important moment in the United States. America had entered World War II in late 1941, and by 1942 the country was rapidly changing. Copper was becoming increasingly important for wartime production, factories were shifting toward military manufacturing, and everyday Americans were experiencing a completely different economy than before. The 1942 wheat penny was still made primarily from copper, unlike the famous steel cents that would appear in 1943. Because of that historical connection, collectors often see the 1942 penny as part of the final chapter before one of the biggest changes in Lincoln cent history. That historical importance adds extra interest and keeps collector demand strong even decades later. When identifying a 1942 wheat penny, the first thing to examine is the date and mint mark. The front of the coin shows Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the word Liberty beside him in the year 1942 below. Under the date, you may or may not find a small mint mark. No mint mark means Philadelphia, a D means Denver, and an S means San Francisco. On the reverse side are the two wheat stalks surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. Collectors study these visible details carefully because the sharpness of the lettering and wheat lines often reveals how much wear the coin has experienced over the years. Condition matters heavily with this coin, but that does not mean circulated examples are worthless. Even moderately worn pieces can still carry real value depending on eye appeal, rarity, and originality. A decent circulated example with strong visible details might sell for far more than most people expect. Better preserved coins with cleaner surfaces and stronger definition can reach prices around $920 or $1,650. Once collectors start finding examples with very limited wear and attractive original color, values can move even higher. Professionally graded coins in exceptional condition have reached around $2,750 and sometimes near $3,850 when the surfaces remain especially sharp and appealing. The highest-end examples are where the market becomes truly impressive. Certain 1942 wheat pennies that survived with bright original luster, nearly perfect details, and very limited handling can exceed $4,900 or more in strong collector auctions. These are the kinds of coins serious collectors compete for because very few remain in that condition after more than 80 years. Most coins from this era simply did not survive without scratches, discoloration, or heavy circulation damage. That rarity at the top end of the grading scale is one reason this coin continues to carry strong value despite its age and relatively common reputation. One of the biggest mistakes people make with old pennies like this is cleaning them. A worn 1942 wheat penny may look dirty or unattractive, and many owners think polishing it will improve the value. In reality, cleaning usually damages the coin's original surface and reduces collector interest significantly. Even light rubbing can create unnatural shine and tiny scratches that experts recognize immediately. Collectors generally prefer coins with honest aging and untouched surfaces, even when they appear dark or dull. So if you ever discover one of these pennies in an old jar, collection, or drawer, the safest decision is to leave it exactly as you found it. The 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny continues to attract attention because it combines history, affordability, and real collector value in a single small coin. Even examples that look rough and heavily circulated can still be worth meaningful money, while stronger pieces can reach prices like $920, $1,650, $2,750, $3,850, and even $4,900 or more depending on condition and rarity. That's why experienced collectors never judge these old wheat pennies too quickly based only on appearance. Sometimes the dullest and most overlooked coin in a collection turns out to be one of the most valuable. Second coin, the kind where dust motes float in the slanted light, and every cardboard box smells like mothballs and forgotten time. You pull down a heavy mason jar from a shelf behind some old Christmas decorations, and inside, among bent nails and rusted buttons, you see a small pile of coins that look like they've been chewed up by the earth itself. One of them catches your eye only because it's so ugly, a dull brownish-gray disc with a surface so discolored you almost mistake it for a bottle cap. It's a 1-cent coin, a penny, but not like the shiny zinc ones in your pocket today. This one is thick, heavy with age, and on its back you can barely make out 2 stalks of wheat while the front shows a tired, shadowy profile of Abraham Lincoln. You almost toss it back into the jar, maybe even into the trash, because honestly it looks like nothing at all. But something makes you hold on to it, rubbing your thumb across the worn surface, and you flip it over to see the date, 1944. That year lands in your mind like a muffled drumbeat. World War II, the home front, a time when America was melting down shell casings to make pennies because copper was needed for bullets and ships. This coin has been sitting in this jar for maybe 80 years, passed over by everyone who came before you, dismissed as just another dirty old penny. And yet, as you hold it under the attic's bare bulb, you start to see tiny details the grime can't fully hide. The sharpness of Lincoln's jawline, the full strands of wheat on the reverse, the way the rim still stands proud instead of being flat and smooth. You feel a strange tug, like this little piece of metal is trying to whisper a secret it's kept since the summer of D-Day. Here's the thing about old coins that most people never learn until it's too late. Appearance is almost always a lie. That dark, crusty, almost ugly look on your 1944 wheat penny is called patina, a natural aging that happens over decades, and it's actually a sign of authenticity, not damage. The coins that look clean and shiny are often the ones that have been scrubbed or polished, ruining their value entirely. What you need to do is look past the discoloration and pay attention to the visible details that tell the real story. First, find the mint mark right below the date on Lincoln's chest side just under the 1944. If there's no letter at all, it was made in Philadelphia. A tiny D means Denver and S means San Francisco. Second, look at the wheat stalks on the back. Are the lines still sharp and separate, or are they mushy from wear? Third, check the rim of the coin, especially Lincoln's hair and the letters of Liberty. If they're still crisp and not flattened by years of jingling in pockets, you might be holding something far more valuable than you ever imagined. Most 1944 wheat pennies you'd find in circulation today are worth only a few cents, maybe a quarter or $1 in well-worn condition, which is why millions of people have thrown them back into jars or even spent them at face value without a second thought. But here is where the magic happens, the moment that separates a casual finder from someone who truly understands hidden treasure. In higher grades, especially if that ugly discoloration is actually a natural chocolate brown or even a rare reddish hue called red, the value starts to climb fast. A nice, uncirculated example with full original luster and no major marks can easily bring $780 at a coin show or online auction, and that's just the beginning. The catch is that most people would never guess a penny could be worth that much, so they leave it in the jar, or worse, they try to clean it up to make it look pretty. Let me give you the numbers that will make your heart skip, because this is where that ugly little coin in your hand turns into something almost unbelievable. A 1944 wheat penny in mint state condition with a Denver or San Francisco mint mark, graded around MS65 with nice brown color, typically sells for $1,250 or more, and that's for a coin that still looks old and dark, not shiny at all. Push that grade higher to MS66, where the luster is full and the surfaces are nearly perfect except for maybe a single tiny mark, and you're looking at $2,050 without even breaking a sweat. Now, if your coin has somehow survived in a flawless blazing red color with no wear whatsoever, what collectors call full red, the value jumps again to $3,300 for the right example. And for the absolute finest known specimens of the 1944 wheat penny, coins that look like they were minted yesterday and stored in a time capsule, prices have reached $4,600 or even higher depending on the mint mark and the bidding war. But I have to stop you right here, because your hand might already be reaching for a cloth or a dab of baking soda to scrub away that ugly discoloration, and that would be the single biggest mistake of your life. Never ever clean an old coin. Not with soap, not with water, not with a pencil eraser, not with anything. Cleaning scratches the microscopic surface, strips away the natural patina that collectors prize, and instantly cuts the value by 75% or more. That $3,300 coin you thought you had becomes a $10 coin the second you rub it. The museums and the serious buyers don't want shiny pennies. They want honest, original surfaces that tell the story of 1944, of wartime America, of a penny that might have bought a loaf of bread or a newspaper announcing the Normandy landings. So leave the grime where it is, put the coin in a soft cardboard flip or a non-PVC plastic holder, and just let it be itself. So what do you do now? First, you take that coin out of the jar very carefully, handling it only by the edges so the oils from your fingers don't make it worse. You get a magnifying glass or even your phone's camera zoomed in, and you confirm the date, the mint mark, and the condition of the wheat stalks and Lincoln's details. Then you either take it to a reputable coin dealer for an in-person look, or you search online for recently sold listings of 1944 wheat pennies in similar condition, being honest about the wear and color. Remember that most of these pennies are common, but the ones that aren't, the sharp, the red, the uncirculated survivors, can literally pay your rent or your car payment. And even if yours turns out to be just a regular old penny, you've learned something more valuable than money. That the things we dismiss as ugly or worthless often carry hidden stories, hidden value, and a quiet beauty that only patient eyes can see. Go back to that mason jar. Dig through the rest of those buttons and nails. Check every drawer, every old purse, every forgotten coat pocket in your grandmother's house. Because that ugly little 1944 wheat penny you almost threw away might be worth $780, or $1,250, or $2,050, or $3,300, or even $4,600 or more. And the only thing standing between you and that discovery is a moment of curiosity, a gentle touch, and the simple wisdom to know that not all treasure comes shining. Sometimes it comes dark, crusty, and waiting for someone who cares enough to look closer.